Hey guys, it's Nick with EGM Now, and I'm going to supplement my review with a short video given about a minute each to the 9 different roles in LawBreakers, just kind of covering how they resonated with me and sort of what they bring to the table. So first, right up here, we have the assassin character. She's best identified by her unique dual blades. She's definitely the most close quarters role in the game. And this is made possible with the use of her grappling hook, which she can use to zip around the map, connect to walls, and easily get around zero gravity zones. But she can also use it to hook onto enemies and pull herself in close to get those like high damage sword kills. She does have her double barrel shotgun right there for a little bit of range, but she is very primarily a close quarters fighter. And then she has her ultimate ability, which gives her like a little more damage, lets her get health from melee kills. So she's all about that, like, you know, high intensity and just keeping the pressure on the enemy. And then next up we have the Titan. As you can see, primary weapon is a rocket launcher. Now the rockets can be fired mid-travel, or I'm sorry, the rockets can be detonated mid-travel with her alt fire ability. And that gives you a bit more accuracy, lets you hit targets that you might not have landed directly. And then her ultimate ability is similar to that of the Warlock in Destiny. She kind of just cruises along, outputs electricity from her fingertips, really high damage. Not super complex, it's just sort of good, just enemy killer. As far as her other abilities, she has a sort of seismic slam, good for getting out of danger. It doesn't have incredible range. She's kind of the character in the game that has the least mobility, I would say. But it's a useful thing for just dealing a bit of damage and getting enemies that are kind of too close to get with the rocket launcher. So next up we have the Vanguard, and this is one of my favorite classes. She carries a really heavy Gatling gun on her hand, and the damage is best facilitated by her Harrier movement. So her primary movement ability allows her to fly around at good speeds and sort of chase down enemies with this giant Gatling gun. Now her secondary ability is a sort of just like a cluster bomb, where it's just a good basic ability. Throws like a cluster of grenades at explode and impact, just killing anyone in her way. And then her ultimate ability launches her up in the air, marks targets below her, and lets her slam down. And this deals damage in a small area of effect. But what's also interesting about this is that it creates a kind of a bubble of zero gravity. So you can kind of put zero gravity in a certain zone if you have teammates that could benefit from it. It's one of the more high damage classes, and the Gatling gun gets more accurate the longer you fire it. So next up we have the Battle Medic. Now this is probably one of my least favorite classes in a game that's so quick and so precise. Her grenade launcher, which can be fired in either impact grenades or kind of lob grenades that'll bounce, it doesn't have quite the lethality that you sort of need to use to be able to survive. She's one of the only classes in the game that kind of has a role, in the sense that she helps the team with a rather particular responsibility. And this healing is done similar to Zenyatta in Overwatch, where you throw an orb on a teammate and it heals them over time. It's useful, and if you have a healer on your team, you do want to stick around them. But you probably won't find a ton of healers in the game because they just don't have quite the capacity to sustain themselves. So right here we have the Enforcer, and this is possibly my favorite class in the game, purely when I'm really going to win, when I'm really like putting in the effort. His standard weapon is just like a good old assault rifle. As you just saw there, his ultimate ability is the Bloodhound rockets, which track the enemy you're pointing at. It's a good kind of, you don't usually get many kills off of it, it's usually just one, but it's a pretty reliably guaranteed kill. What makes him more unique though is he has something, I believe it's called the Distortion Field, and it's this movement ability which increases his sprinting, fire rate, and reload time. And it's useful for getting around the map. But what makes it special is that dealing damage with your assault rifle while in this mode sustains the fuel that is otherwise spent while using it. So as long as your accuracy is good, you can sustain this high-speed mode for a reasonable amount of time, and that'll keep you really aggressive and make you a harder target for enemies to hit. So right here we have another one of my more favorite classes. He's the Juggernaut. He's this giant robot, one of the biggest health pools in the game. And you can see he comes with this this really beefy looking shotgun, and on the end of the shotgun is a blade, which is his alternate fire. Now the shotgun and the blade are extremely close quarters offensive tools, but he does have as his movement ability a sprint, which can also be kind of used as a charge, like it deals damage if you contact enemies with it. So you want to use that sprint to close the distances, otherwise you're not going to be doing a lot. His secondary ability is a wall, which you can use to block off key routes on the map, or even like save yourself, put something between you and an enemy if they're chasing you down with low health. It's not a huge barrier, but it's good enough size that it can be used for in most situations. And then his ultimate is an overshield, which is just like a basic health buff, helps you sustain in those firefights. Here we have the Gunslinger, and this is kind of one of the more complicated heroes to get a hang of. He has two weapons, one burst fire pistol in his left hand, and then his kind of revolver hand cannon type weapon in his right hand. And they're fired with the two different triggers. The rhythm of them can be kind of hard to get down, but once you do, you can engage enemies at various ranges with pretty good efficacy. His ultimate ability, which you just saw there, just kind of like an overcharged offensive ability. Both guns shoot out a steady stream of damage, and you can just chase people around and gun them down. Now his and his secondary ability is the blade, which is similar to that of the Titanfall Pulse Blade, where you can throw it and it does do damage if it lands, but its main usefulness is marking enemies in a certain area. And then finally, his other ability is a teleport, similar to a tracer thing, just get out of danger. Now here we have the Wraith, probably one of the quickest heroes apart from the Assassin, where he can just zip around. He has a automatic machine pistol, which is really high damage if you get up close, and you're going to need to use his movement ability to close that distance, and that's a slide. It recharges fairly quick, and it gives him it puts a fair amount of distance down the field. But what also complements this slide is a triple jump, which takes a small recharge in between, but if you use it in conjunction with the slide, you can travel really far distances around the map. You can close the distance between yourself and an enemy and use his alt attack, which is a really powerful stab, but the blade you see, apart from stabbing people, can also be used to shoot, and if you hit an enemy or even just a wall, that blade can then be shot with your pistol to explode and deal a decent amount of damage. To complement all of that is his ultimate, which slows down enemies in front of him, making them easy target for the blade or stab or whatever else. Finally, we have the Harrier here, a good kind of middle-of-the-road damage dealer. Her standard fire is just a straight beam of damage, and her alt fire shoots something like a bolt, which, when it makes contact, can make an enemy more vulnerable to damage. So it's a good combo to hit them with the bolt and then start beaming away at them with a standard attack. And that's a good way to bring it down like kind of beefier foes. One of her abilities is a health pack, which can be used by yourself or your team, just good for basic sustainability. Her ultimate is a giant beam shot from the chest. You kind of shoot it in the air, sprays the beam down. It has a bit of a pushback, so it can be hard to maneuver when you're doing it, but it does a lot of damage. And then her movement ability is her kind of Harrier boots, which just give her a slight cover. Now these boots, apart from letting you cover with your movement ability, these boots also come into play when you melee, because instead of the standard just kick that everyone else does, the Harrier does a double kick, which, besides dealing damage, has really good pushback. So since her laser beam isn't super close quarters, you can kind of open up a distance between you and an enemy to give yourself more of a a more advantageous distance. So yeah, that's all the characters in Lawbreakers. It'll be interesting to see how they evolve, but for now, they seem to be reasonably diverse, and it'll be interesting to see what else the game has for us. This is Nick with EGM, and thanks for joining me.